I'm Father Joe Lincoln, a member of the pastoral team at Ignatius House. As I begin, I presume to ask that you bear with me in these remarks, for I will offer what I hope you will find to be an encouraging and heartening proposal. As we entered this current Lenten season, it struck me that for the last year we have been engaged in fasting and weeping and mourning. Think of all those things, from small to large, from insignificant to important, that we have had to give up and to live without. We have fasted from the ability to freely gather with family, friends, and colleagues, from those normal greetings of a handshake or a hug, from the simple pleasure of seeing the smile on the face of another, even a stranger that's passing by. Indeed, these months of pandemic have been filled with fasting. But not just fasting, with weeping and mourning too. Many, if not all of us, have wept and mourned the loss of friends and family members who struggled and suffered at the hands of the coronavirus. We've wept and mourned at the ongoing racial injustice in our land, and if you are like me, you've had enough of the political tensions of these days. Many have wept and mourned in ways new and unfamiliar to us, as we've been unable to embrace those who are grieving and to be embraced as we ourselves grieve and mourn. Rend our hearts, the Scriptures tell us. Well, rend our hearts we have. In fact, I'm not sure how much more rending our hearts can take. They have been torn and broken as the heaviness of the pandemic and racial injustice continues to weigh us down. Even in recent days, when we have seen a glimmer of hope with the arrival of vaccines, the end does not seem to be as near as we all may hope, and our hearts and our spirits may well feel discouraged. And while not the official beginning of the pandemic, my mind circles back to March 13th, 2020, as our pandemic start date. That Friday was the day we closed down our retreat house for what we predicted would be for 2 weeks, and it lasted for 2.5 months. That Friday, the 13th, was the end of the second week of Lent 2020. There's a part of me that wonders whether last year's Lent has yet to end. There's been a Lent of more than 40 weeks, not 40 days. Our fasting and weeping and mourning continues. There's been no break, no respite, and yet here we are in the midst of a new season of Lent, once again on a journey to Calvary and the cross. How, then, are we to make the most of this acceptable time? How is this year's Lent in pandemic different than last year's Lent in pandemic? Well, allow me to suggest a simple proposal. From the time that I was a kid, I felt that our Lenten journey was to be a most somber undertaking. This understanding was reinforced by teachers and preachers and even by fellow Catholics and Christians. However, recently I have been refocused in my understanding by the catechumens who are preparing to join our faith community. This past week, I received an email from a college student who is preparing to join our church this Easter. He expressed such enthusiasm and asked that I pray for him. As a result, I now join my Lenten journey to his and to all those current catechumens. Their journey during this season involves a build-up to what can rightly be described as a great and grand welcoming into our faith community at Easter. So here is my proposal. This year, this Lent, be intentional and remember and pray for those catechumens who are preparing themselves to join our faith community. Make the effort and take the time to learn who the catechumens are in your church community. Make the effort and take the time to write a note to them or express to them in person a genuine word of support and welcome. Make the effort and take the time to encourage other members of your church community to do the same. I am confident your efforts will be well received and appreciated. Further, I suspect such an effort will leave you feeling good for having done it. Bottom line, our faith community is growing. Thanks be to God. There are men and women, young and old, who right now are on a joyous journey to join our church. Think about that. Their experience of faith is growing, as is, thanks to them, our faith community. So let's be joyous with them in our respective Lenten journeys. Make the effort and take the time to actually, intentionally, and specifically welcome each of them. Find out from your pastor or your parish's RCI director the names of the catechumens and make the effort and take the time to pray for them by name and to extend to them some expression of welcome. I am confident that they and you will be grateful for your effort.